Hey yo there, what do you hear, what do you say? Sandkaiser here, and today I'd like to talk about the single most important thing that you can do to ensure that you achieve your goals that takes no money, requires no effort, and is something that you can do instantly and immediately. Now, before I get into that, I'd just like to say I'd really appreciate if you hit the like button, subscribe, comment, please. Just any sort of engagement really would be really appreciated. Yeah, it really means the world to me. So yeah, I would just appreciate if you could do that. So yeah, I think there's a sort of general idea that floats around in sort of like self-improvement and sort of self-help spaces. And that idea is that when it comes to sort of goals, the thing that you really need to do is sort of like have them sort of clearly defined, have them sort of like clearly enunciated, and have them sort of like out there in the open. So for example, you write them down or you put them in a particular place, and then you sort of like just read them at a particular point and then you do them, right? The problem is that that isn't foolproof. That doesn't get the job done. That doesn't always work, right? Because the problem is that how many people, right, myself included, I'm guilty of it as much as anyone else, right, have clearly defined goals, have clearly things that they want to do, right, but they still don't end up doing them, right? So for example, this YouTube channel, I initially made this YouTube channel around like last year March, right? And what was the thing sort of impeding me from sort of just getting up a mic and just recording videos and then just talking like this? Absolutely nothing. There was absolutely nothing that stopped me. There was nothing getting in my way, and yeah, I didn't do it, right? So the thing that we, and I think that I really need to sort of like internalize, is that it's not the goals that are the problem. It's your mindset. It's your belief. It's your philosophy. In other words, right? This is what you need to achieve your dreams, right? It's just keeping in mind like a sort of simple sort of like three-word saying, I suppose, right? Systems, not goals. Systems, not goals, right? Because when you focus solely on goals, right, that's not going to ensure that you get that sort of lasting success in discipline. The reason being is because let's say you do achieve a goal, right, and then what, right? Let's say you go through all your to-do lists, right, and now you're completely floundering, right? You have no idea what you're going to do tomorrow. You don't have no idea what you're going to do after tomorrow. You just have no idea as to what like the future holds, right? You don't have a weekly plan. You don't have a weekly schedule because that just isn't a part of the process, right? You just have your goals and that's it. So the thing to keep in mind is that you have to sort of have sort of the conjunction between not only like having like clearly defined goals but having a clearly defined system, right? And the thing to sort of keep in mind is that to have a really well-defined system and to make sure that it's really sort of focusing, you have to have some level of self-awareness. You have to know yourself on some intimate level, right? A lot of people don't know themselves, and it's surprising to hear that. But a lot of people, if you was to ask them, okay, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses, right? They'll often give like some sort of like cliche answer, like, oh, they'll give you the sort of answer that you'd hear them talk to, like when it comes to like a job interview or something like that. Oh, I'm too much of a perfectionist or something like that. They'll try to dress up like a weakness as a strength, right? But they don't actually know, right? They don't actually know, okay, what's the one quality that I used to get compliments when I was younger? What's the one quality that people will keep on telling me about over and over again? What's the one thing that sort of stands me out from the crowd? The thing that I do 10% better than my peers, right? So for me, it's talking, right? Sort of public speaking. People often say that I'm like eloquent, that I'm well spoken. It seems to be a fairly common thing. So that's like a skill that I intend to try to utilize and try to get better at, right? YouTube's one way of getting better at it, right? So just keeping in mind, right? Okay, so you should sort of just think of it like this, okay? Here's a sort of plan that I think is pretty helpful, right? So first you have to know yourself in some sense, right? You have to sort of like do like a deep dive, get like a pen and paper, or actually even better, preferably pencil and paper, so that way you can rub things out quite easily. And then just write yourself, okay, who am I? What am I like? What are my beliefs? What are my ambitions? What do I want, right? What's my mindset? What's the thing that makes me not want to do a given thing? What's a distraction that commonly comes up, and how can I do to prevent that, right? So for me, I have basically a purple notebook, and I just write that every time I get distracted. I just write it down and I just make a note of it. Okay, I'm distracted by watching movies. I'm distracted by scrolling on social media. I'm distracted by my phone. I'm distracted by music, right? And just keeping in mind these things and just keeping like a catalog of them. That's going to be something that's going to be really helpful when it comes to sort of like ensuring that this doesn't happen again. So once you have that sort of piece of paper and it's like fully sort of like been fleshed out and that sort of thing, right? And now you can sort of go on to your beliefs, right? And now you get like another piece of paper and you say, okay, what are my beliefs and what are the beliefs that are holding me back, right? Because the thing to keep in mind is that, like, if you had the correct beliefs, if you had the correct mindset, if you had the correct philosophy, that would mean you have the correct system, and that would mean you would be able to achieve your goals. So clearly, the fact that you haven't achieved your goals is indicative of that one of these things is not in where it should be, right? Because if you did have the sort of right mindset, if you did have the right beliefs, if you did have the right goals, then you would achieve your goals, right? So just keeping that in mind and just being aware of the fact that you have gone wrong somewhere and just stating that at the outset, right? I have gone wrong somewhere. I need to, fix up, right? That's like half the battle done, right? So write down all the beliefs that you think are sort of like impeding you, that are sort of bringing you down, that are making you feel as though you're not able to do it, and then just banish them, right? Just completely get rid of them. Just imagine, right, for a second, that you were the sort of person who could do the things that you're talking about, right? So for me, let me tell you a personal goal of mine. I have a lot of exams coming up in like a month's time, right? And I'm worried that I'm going to fail. It's a very live possibility. I might not be able to get the job done. And I worry about it very, very much. So to be honest, it's something I've lost sleep over. I've been extremely anxious about. But the thing is that I've just sort of realized that there's a sort of path before me, right? Either if I don't revise, I will definitely fail. There's no question about it, right? If I do revise, I might fail. There's still a live possibility. But if I revise, I might succeed as well. People always sort of give themselves excuses as to why they can't give it their all. And for a lot of people, they've gotten so comfortable telling themselves lies that they really just sincerely begin to believe it, right? How many people have you met that are sort of like overweight, or they're they're stuck in like a dead end job that they don't like personally, and they give you like this whole panoply of excuses as to why they're not able to do the thing. Oh well, because I've just done it for so long. Oh, I don't have any skills. Oh this, oh that, right? And they never really sort of go out on a limb and just say, well, why not? Why not give it a shot? I've got nothing to lose. Worst that happens is it doesn't work out, but at least I tried, right? And so just getting your sort of foundational beliefs and just sort of realizing, okay, well, what are the things holding me back, right? And then just trying to like internally just say, okay, I no longer believe this, right? Just tell yourself that over and over again. Just repeat it back to yourself, right? Obviously, you can't change your entire belief system like overnight, right? But the thing is that your brain is exceptionally good at sort of remembering things that gets on that is being repeated over and over again, right? So for example, you could probably remember like half a dozen songs from your childhood, even though you haven't remembered any of them, right? Like you haven't seen any of them in ages. So for example, I can probably remember like dozens of cartoon songs, dozens of like Disney songs, even though I haven't seen like the movies or the TV series for like well over a decade at this point. The reason as to why is because when I was a kid, I was glued to the screen. I watched those videos. I sung them back to me. I imagined myself in all sorts of fanciful scenarios where I was involved in these TV shows. So that way I'm able to like memorize these pieces of media and these theme songs very, very easily, right? So just repeating them back to yourself and just saying, okay, let me try. Let me be like, just imagine yourself as the sort of person where you're able to do these things, right? Because the thing to keep in mind is that like imagining is literally halfway there. Like if you can imagine you can do a given thing, right? It's not that far off from reality that you're able to do that thing, right? So for example, like that might sound like really, really crazy, but really like stop and think about this. Pretty much everyone who's ever achieved some incredible goal has imagined themselves doing it at some point in time, right? So for example, when it comes to say, I don't know, Michael Jordan, he dreamed that, or like he imagined that he could be the greatest basketball player of all time, right? And he did become the greatest basketball player of all time. And just keeping in mind that beliefs are integral is probably the single biggest thing that has sort of revamped my sort of like philosophy of productivity, right? So we have the beliefs down pat, right? And now mindset. Mindsets can be sort of thought of as like a sort of broader and encapsulates more than beliefs, right? A mindset is sort of like how you approach life in general, right? So for example, there are some sort of mindsets that are extremely sort of like a vampiric, for want of a bit of a term, right? They'll constantly think about the sort of negatives. They'll constantly think about what if I'm not able to. They'll give you 100 reasons as to why something can't happen when only one of them is needed, right? They'll give you like a whole barrage of reasons as to why the things will never work out when they haven't even given it a shot, right? And then on the other hand, there are some people who they look at a challenge, they look at something, and they think, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Why not? Why not? Why not me? Why not now? Right? That's their sort of attitude in life. And obviously it goes without saying that the latter is going to be significantly more successful when it comes to sort of achieving their goals and achieving like their desired like lifestyles as compared to the former person, right? So sort of changing your mindset. The way you can change your mindset is really, really simple. Just imagine yourself as the sort of person who has that sort of mindset and sort of like list out the traits. Okay, they're disciplined, they're focused, they're hardworking, they exercise early in the morning, they have so and so traits, they have so and so abilities. It's kind of incredible when you think about it, but I'm almost positive that the vast majority of people I've met know what they need to do to be successful, but they just don't do it. It's kind of incredible when you think about it. We often like lambast people who smoke and people who drink and people who, you know, engage in vices and activities that we would sort of frown upon. But we engage in a lot of similar vices in a lot of ways, right? So, for example, you could argue that procrastination is a kind of vice, right? People sort of putting off sort of their current sort of goals and the things that they should be doing, and they're just sort of like offloading it onto their future selves. That is irrational, right? And by irrational I mean like it's not in line with their current goals. And the thing to keep in mind is that nothing is stopping them, right? Nothing is stopping you from being obscenely disciplined. Nothing is stopping you from being as disciplined as someone like David Goggins, right? Absolutely nothing. No one's holding a gun to your head. No one's preventing you from doing so. What's stopping you from reading 10 pages of a book? What's stopping you from going for a cold shower? What's stopping you from exercising early in the morning? Absolutely nothing. So just give it a shot. Just keep it. There's an excellent TED talk given by I think a woman named is Carol Dweck, and she argues for this sort of disparity between two sorts of mindsets: the fixed mindsets versus the growth mindsets. The growth mindset facilitates sort of resistance, continuous improvement, continuous learning, and the fixed mindset is just, this is my cap, this is my peak, I can't go any further, right? So just sort of realize that if you change your beliefs, if you change your mindset, if you change your goals, and if you change your system, right, it's impossible to fail. You can't fail. You just can't. So yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest. And to be honest, this is something, it's not just, I mean, this YouTube channel isn't just for me, obviously, right? It's also for the person that I want to become, right? So for example, a lot of the things I've said in this video are things that I want to try to implement myself. A lot of the things in this video are things that I want to sort of internalize as well. I'm not at that sort of level where I'm like obscenely disciplined or like I'm at like peak performance, right? Right now I feel like I'm barely hitting 20, right? But that just goes to show that I have so much more to do and so much more to grow. And yeah, like I said, I really would appreciate if you hit like, hit subscribe, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Take care, all the best. And this is Sandcastle logging off.